Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2722 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom Trek is God's Cosmic Dominion, the Unrivaled Strength of the Almighty, a trek through Psalm 89, 9-18. This psalm is a grand meditation on God's covenant faithfulness, and this middle section serves to powerfully establish God's absolute cosmic power as the guarantor of that covenant. In our last conversation, we heard the psalmist, Ethan the Ezrahite, begin with an eternal commitment to sing of God's unfailing love and faithfulness forever. He anchored that hope in the Davidic Covenant, God's eternal promise of an unending dynasty, and affirmed God's supremacy over the divine council, declaring that no angel can compare with him. Now, Ethan shifts from the celestial courtroom to the vastness of creation, demonstrating that the God who made that eternal promise is the only one powerful enough to keep it. He is the God who calms the raging sea, defeats the ancient powers of chaos, and possesses all the power, righteousness, and justice necessary to sustain his promise forever. This is a powerful, awe-inspiring affirmation designed to build our confidence in the absolute authority of the Most High. So, let's open our hearts to this declaration of God's universal sovereignty, recognizing the immense power of the one who holds us in his hand. The first section is Taming the Chaos, the Ruler of the Seas. Psalm 89, 9-12. You rule the oceans when their waves surge high. You are the one who smashed the great sea monster, Rahab, and scattered your enemies with a mighty arm. The heavens are yours, and the earth is yours. Everything in the world is made by your hands. You created north and south. Mount Tabor and Mount Hermon praise your name. The psalmist begins by affirming God's absolute dominion over one of the most terrifying forces in the ancient world, the sea. You rule the oceans when their waves surge high. In the ancient Israelite worldview, the sea was often seen as a symbol of chaos, instability, and raw, untamable power. For God to rule the oceans means he exercises complete control over the very forces of chaos and destruction. When the waves surge in fury, God is the supreme authority who limits them and commands their retreat. This dominion over chaos is illustrated by a great historical and mythical allusion. You are the one who smashed the great sea monster, Rahab, and scattered your enemies with a mighty arm. Rahab is often used in the Old Testament as a mythical figure representing primeval chaos, similar to the sea monsters Yam and Leviathan. More practically, it is a symbolic name for Egypt, the great oppressor of Israel. By saying God smashed Rahab, the psalmist is referring both to God's cosmic victory over the forces of disorder at creation and to his historical victory over the Egyptian army at the Red Sea. God used his mighty arm to overcome the world's greatest empire and scatter his enemies. This imagery powerfully asserts that there is no chaos, no political power, and no physical force that can withstand the strength of the Almighty God. The affirmation of God's power then expands to encompass all of creation. The heavens are yours, and the earth is yours. Everything in the world is made by your hands. This is a comprehensive statement of ownership and creation. God's dominion is not limited to the ocean or a single nation. He owns the entire cosmos. Everything in the world is a product of his hands, meaning there is nothing outside his control, his design, or his authority. This universal ownership extends to all geographical markers. You created north and south. Mount Tabor and Mount Hermon praise your name. North and south signifies the totality of direction and distance. The mention of Mount Tabor in central Israel and Mount Hermon, the highest peak in the north, provides specific, tangible examples of God's absolute creation. These majestic mountains stand silent, yet their sheer existence is a continuous testimony. They praise your name. Their grandeur is a testament to the greater majesty of their Creator. This section establishes God as the supreme ruler of the cosmos, whose creative and destructive power utterly guarantees the certainty of his covenant promises. The second section is the throne of righteousness and justice. Psalm 89, 13-14. Powerful is your arm, strong is your hand. Your right hand is lifted high in victory. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Unfailing love and truth walk before you as attendants. The psalmist summarizes God's irresistible strength with a flourish. Powerful is your arm, strong is your hand. Your right hand is lifted high in victory. The repetition of arm and hand emphasizes the physicality and immediacy of God's power. His right hand, traditionally the hand of strength, favor, and action, is perpetually lifted high in victory. This is the image of a king who has won the war and whose triumph is eternal. But this power is not arbitrary or tyrannical. It is perfectly moral and ordered. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Unfailing love and truth walk before you as attendants. This is one of the most profound statements about God's governance in the entire Psalter. It describes the divine counsel and the cosmic order of God's kingdom. Righteousness, tzedek, moral integrity and adherence to God's standard, and justice, mishpat, fairness in judgment and upholding the law, are the foundation upon which God's eternal throne rests. His rule is completely steady because it is utterly just. Unfailing love, ased, steadfast loyalty, and truth, munah, reliability, and faithfulness, are his attendants, kadam to go before him. These two characteristics clear the path and prepare the way for God's every action. This theological truth is critical for the psalmist. It assures him that the powerful, ocean-taming God is also the perfectly moral God. His power is always used in service of justice and love. This perfect moral consistency guarantees that the Davidic Covenant will be kept not just because God is strong enough, but because he is righteous enough. The third section is the blessing of knowing the sound. Psalm 89, 15-18. Happy are those who hear the joyful call to worship, for they will walk in the light of your presence, O Lord. They rejoice in your name all day long. They exalt in your righteousness. You are the glory of their strength. It is your favor that makes us triumphant. Yes, our protection comes from the Lord, and he, the Holy One of Israel, has given us our King. The psalmist now turns his attention from the cosmic reality to the blessed reality of God's people. Happy are those who hear the joyful call to worship, for they will walk in the light of your presence, O Lord. Happy Asher is the same word used in the opening of many psalms, the declaration of blessing. This blessing belongs to those who hear the joyful call to worship, teruah, the triumphant shout, or the sound of the shofar. This sound is the signal of God's presence and deliverance. Those who respond to that call will walk in the light of your presence, experiencing his guidance, favor, and protection. This blessing manifests as unending joy and confidence. They rejoice in your name all day long. They exult in your righteousness. Their joy is perpetual all day long, and it is focused entirely on God's name, his character, and his righteousness, his perfect justice. They find their highest honor not in their own accomplishments, but in God's moral perfection. The psalmist concludes with a declaration that links God's character directly to the security of his people and the Davidic Covenant. You are the glory of their strength. It is your favor that makes us triumphant. Yes, our protection comes from the Lord, and he, the Holy One of Israel, has given us our King. God is the glory of their strength. He is the source of their power and the boast of their might. Their triumph is not earned. It is a gift of God's favor, rason, his good pleasure. Their ultimate protection comes from the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. This final statement grounds their security in the messianic hope. God, the supreme cosmic ruler, the one whose righteousness is his foundation, is the very one who has given us our King. This affirmation ties the overwhelming universal power demonstrated in the heavens and the sea directly to the specific, enduring promise of the Davidic throne. It assures the people that because God is so great and so true, the covenant and the king are utterly secure. This is the profound comfort that resolves the anguish of Psalm 88. God may allow darkness, but his foundational truth, his eternal covenant, and his ultimate victory are unshakable. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and most importantly, your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.